The city can be a cruel and unforgiving place, fast-moving, demanding our utmost strength and resilience. For some, keeping up with these demands on a daily basis can take its toll on our mental health. Others have found that a light of hope exists in the darkness, a sanctuary that can take the pain, loneliness, and stress of daily life and transform it into a story of laughter, strength, and camaraderie. The world of comedy is one that few understand. From an audience perspective, a comedian is someone who brings a smile to the face of a crowd. But there is a deeper story beneath the smile the audience sees on stage. For some, like Kristen, comedy is a safe haven where some of the closest friends can be made.
I got into comedy, so it started in college. I went to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and there was an improv troupe there called Barbecue Kitten. I ended up joining the troupe, and actually we just this past summer had our 20-year reunion from the day that it started. I was never one of those students that was like a class clown. Like, I was a pretty solid student. I was not the kind that tried to get a laugh in class. So the fact that I was able to do that just kind of was really freeing. When I'm at home by myself, I tend to let anxiety get to me and think about what if scenarios that I don't want to think about. And so I've learned about myself ways to try to negate that. And one of the things that I've done is keep myself occupied. And improv has been a wonderful solution to that. So instead of sitting at home and wondering what if on different scenarios, if I can go out and find a group of people that are like-minded, that I can gel with, and that I can laugh with. Laughter is such an opening option to start a further conversation. So I find that I could connect with improv people quickly, because as soon as you share a laugh and you share a teamwork and you share the stage, it opens it up to have more than just surface level conversations, which at least for me has always helped my mental health. When I'm a pretty open book, and I find when I can have real conversations with people, it makes a big difference. I honestly started doing improv as an adult because I needed a release from teaching. I certainly would never substitute improv for therapy, but there's something so nice about going to an improv class that you don't want to go to, but as soon as you leave, you're like, oh, that felt good. The thing that's so lovely about improv is you're working with a group of people, and so it feels like a team effort. So even if you feel alone in your real life, you have a whole team that you're working with. And then the concept of improv, the number one rule that we all know is yes and. That philosophy is such a freeing philosophy, and if you understand it and can use it, it applies to more than just the stage. It's such a life skill that works universally, and I think because of that, it really impacts the way I approach life, and because I have that yes and in my back pocket, I think mentally that makes me stronger than I would be without it. It's just a place to be with people who are like-minded, that are supporting you without any preconceived notions of what that should mean, and they're willing to build you up and are choosing to build you up. And like, wouldn't that be wonderful if that happened in the real world way more frequently? You know, if we just accepted people and took the things that could be considered character flaws and we learned how to use them well. That's what improv teaches. And so for me, it's like, with that in mind, you're going to feel mentally better after doing improv. You got a team, you've got a community, and people are there to work with you and make you feel stronger and better about yourself, which is a beautiful thing.
To some, laughter comes as naturally as breathing. And the power of laughter is something that's easy to take for granted. Hello, I am your host, Tahtinen, And today I'm joined by my co-host, a longtime performer and head improv coach at Comedy Sports, a venue located right here in downtown Milwaukee, Mike Kauth. Mike, it is a pleasure, if I may say so, to have you in the studio today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you, Hannah.
Well, Mike, you've been in the comedy business for a while, it's safe to say. As a performer yourself, how do you feel that performing comedy may differ from the other ways that people cope with challenges to their mental health?
Yeah, boy, you say that. I've been doing comedy, this is my 27th year doing improv comedy. And it's such a wonderful way to cope because it's like you're not alone. You're out there, you're with people, you get to express some of those feelings that sometimes you bottle up, right? If you're kind of having a bad day or you're having some issues, you might think like, I'm just gonna stay here, I'm just gonna keep to myself. But the great thing with improvisation comedy is you're out there, you're around people, you're laughing, you're having a good time.
Sometimes in improv circles, I hear the phrase, leave it at the door. Can you
Yeah.
explain kind of what that means?
Yes, yeah. It's a philosophy I try and abide by as well, because one of the things is like, you leave it at the door, so much of improv, everyone is relying on you. You're working with people, you're setting them up, they're setting you up. You want to be able to feel supported. And with that, like if you're having a bad day and you bring some of those negative feelings in, or you have an issue and you're thinking about it the whole time, that's gonna get between you sharing your full self. So if you leave it at the door, you're having a bad, it's gonna be there for you.
Sure.
Right when you're done.
Right.
So you might as well allow yourself some grace, part with it, and just let yourself have fun. Let yourself be free.
It's easy to see how that transfers into like real life. Kristen said, we just saw her speak about yes and as sort of a philosophy.
Yeah.
It seems like improv is sort of a space of just validation constantly.
Oh, for sure. That's one of those wonderful things, like something with improvisation, that base rule of yes and. So you say something, your partner says something. The first rule is like you agree with that, you accept it to be truth, and then you add on to it. So you're always building together, you're always creating. You're never, ideally in improv, you're never just a passive participant. You're always there waiting to add and create together.
And just quickly,
Yeah.
we're speaking kind of generally, but I want to know
Yes.
about you personally.
Sure.
How do you think improv helps you sort of step out of your own anxieties?
Being in the role that I am, like this head coach role at Comedy Sports, I know that people will like look to me to set a good example. And I want to, because like coming up through improv, it was so great to like learn from so many people.
I mean, it's clear that that has impacted you.
Yes.
You've taken that confidence through.
Yes.
Frankly, it's amazing that comedy can have that kind of effect on people. So we're going to check back in a little while, but first, comedy is a way to not only help our own mental health, but to connect with others in a way that extends far beyond just performer and audience. Alan Guskowski gives us a look at just what that connection means. In comedy, not only is the connection with your scene partner absolutely vital, but that connection with the audience is one of the most valuable things a comedian can experience. Alan has been performing comedy for over 22 years, and he has seen firsthand the powerful effect that laughter and comedy can have on its audience.
I found comedy very early, and when you get that kind of laughter and response, I was hooked immediately. Like you get that laugh, you get that response, and you just want more. How can I get more of that good feeling by making other people feel good? It's great to be a part of a comedy community because everyone there's got something going on. There's the old rule of thumb of like, if you're a stand-up comic, you probably have a darkness inside, or every comedian's a little bit broken, or something like that. For me, it's not ever been that intense, but it is that idea of we're all sort of, we're finding the aisle of misfit toys. So we're all kind of the weirdos, we all have a weird take on stuff, we're all just trying to get our ideas and opinions out into the world. And then you find other like-minded people like that in the comedy community. People always want that togetherness. They don't like to feel isolated. And a lot of times with comedy, whether it's how it's being presented or if you're in the audience, you're in a group. So that laughter that's happening, it's usually not just one person kind of laughing on their own, but you get the whole room together. And it sort of, again, builds that community, that idea of we're all having fun, but we're having fun together. It's a communal experience. It's a group thing that we're all having this moment together. We all heard the same joke. We found it funny. We're laughing all together. And especially doing improv, I get to be in on it too. If you're feeling sad, you can kind of pinpoint, this is why I'm feeling sad. If you're feeling happy, it's like, okay, this thing happened and now I'm feeling happy. Laughter can come out of nowhere and it can surprise you. So even if you're having a bad day, if your mental health isn't the best, even if you're in the mindset where happiness and joy you might not see a path to it, laughter is going to kind of be the key to open that door that you don't see coming. You can have all these emotions that can kind of exist alone, good or bad, but laughter, it's again going to be rare that you're just sitting there laughing by yourself. If there's going to be laughter happening, somebody else was involved. Hopefully they walk out knowing me a little bit better, and I think they can't think that they know me unless I've been vulnerable at some point. And I think them laughing and sort of cheering and being loud about it is their way of opening up back to you. Like, oh, you were vulnerable? Well, we'll be vulnerable and let you know that that affected us. Comedy is good for everybody, and I think talking to other people, regardless of whatever level of dealing with their mental health they might be going through, talking is always going to make it easier. A community is always going to make it easier. And there's no rule that says you have to be this vulnerable this fast. Just like in comedy, there's no rule that says you have to be this funny this fast. I think you're going to find your funny when you're ready, and I think you'll be open about your mental health and your vulnerability when you are ready. And just taking the right steps with the right people is going to make the world a better place for everybody involved.
That connection with the audience really is something special, isn't it, Mike?
It really is, absolutely.
Well, now that I have you here, if you don't mind, I'd love to pick your brain at kind of a big question.
Yeah,
is that all right?
Of course.
All right. Well, without further ado, what do you think it is about the power of laughter that causes a healing effect in people?
Yeah. Honestly, there's probably something scientific to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of endorphins and things getting released in your brain and what have you. But I think, honestly, it's that feeling of community, connection, the cathartic release of something held inside of you just coming out spontaneously. And that feeling of joy that washes over you every time that you laugh. I think it's just like, there's nothing like it. There's no recreation. There's no, like, you can fake laugh, but, it's so different.
There are not a lot of times as a performer where you can see that instant feedback in someone and really see the way you've transformed them.
Yes.
I think that really makes improv special. Are there any other parts of this craft that you think are really unique to improv?
Yeah, I think one of those things, you're asking an audience to come in, watch me, nothing is planned, we don't know where this is going. It's built on trust.
I see.
Right? Because if you go see a stand-up show, hilarious, you know these people have worked hard on crafting these jokes. Sketch comedy, the same thing. People have worked hard to craft this stuff. Improv, you're coming in and asking an audience, like, trust me, I have this. We are going to have a good time. And that's the cool bond that you build between you and audience, of just like, you're a room of strangers that enter, for the most part.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you have this shared experience that's unique to everybody, something that made us all laugh, something that will connect you. When audience members return, they remember those moments. They come back because they've had such a good time and they felt so good about it.
You're taking things that are, free, essentially, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
require a lot of resources, but you leave people with something really meaningful.
Yeah.
It's no question that it makes total sense that leaves sort of a profound impact in audience members and, performers. I
sure.
want to bring the microscope in on you a
Yeah.
little bit again. And speaking from your personal experience, how has your career of performing comedy helped you connect with others?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like when I first started, I always thought like, oh, I want to be the funniest guy up there. And then quickly you learn with improv, it's about setting each other up, listening, working together as a team. So that removed a lot of that like concern or just pressure that I would put on myself. And being able to like set other people up, like improv is connection. You have to listen to the other person, react to what they're saying, make sure that everyone feels safe and
Yeah.
supported. So yeah, just over the years, it's taught me how important it is to like make eye contact,
Sure.
yes, and support each other, and leave anything that like might be bugging me, like we were talking about,
Right.
like at the door.
At the door.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you're very good at what you do because you are making me look very good, setting each other up. You're a fantastic interview here.
Takes one to know one.
When I think about how mental health and comedy work hand in hand, it makes me just want to go out and tell the world about it. So that's exactly what Amy Westrup does when she's teaching an improv workshop. While watching a comedy show can be very helpful for mental health, the feeling of relief can be temporary. The ability to perform comedy, however, not only gives a more lasting effect, but can leave a person with valuable skills that they can take with them for the rest of their life. Workshops, like the ones Amy teaches, can be the doorway people need to finding peace in their own life and becoming a better, stronger version of themselves.
All of those applied improv programs, we kind of revamped them to really focus on basically soft skills. Eye contact, active listening, staying present. It really helps move our personal being forward, but then also like in the professional space, it helps us achieve outcomes that that are put forth by our employers or our friend groups or our parts of our community. More often than not, what I hear as a takeaway is, oh my gosh, this course really helped me get out of my head and out of my own way. Everybody signs up for a different reason. Maybe somebody wants to find confidence on stage. Maybe it's a requirement for their job. Maybe they just want to have fun and get out of their heads. They have a very stressful life. Maybe they just want to meet new people. Everybody has their own reason and they bring something new to the workshop. Part of improv is finding the positive and staying positive and taking other people's ideas, accepting them, and moving them forward in a positive way. At the end of the day, improv is not about being funny. Improv is about connecting. I think there's a quote, it's to be listened to and genuinely heard for some people is the equivalent of being loved. As a coach for 101, it is, in my opinion, a really big responsibility because I'm their first introduction to improv for so many. And I take that very seriously because I have a lot of respect for what we are teaching and how we teach it. You have to know that in improv, you can't do anything wrong. There are no mistakes. The only mistake you can make is not doing it. You might fail, but if you're gonna fail, fail big. Because there's really no such thing as failure in improv. Everything you do is right because I have your back. For some of the workshops, it's not so much the exercise itself, it's the takeaway that comes from talking about why we did the exercise, what we did in the exercise, and how we could use it moving forward. I really would love people to just have a more open mind about improv and the power of improv. You know, we call our corporate and applied improv workshops, it's applied improv. We're giving you tools to apply to your daily life. I have taught applied improv workshops to Fortune 100 companies of hundreds of people down to a group of 5 people. And the results are usually the same. People walk away going, oh my gosh, that was so fun connecting with one another. I felt a really strong bond with my coworkers or people I haven't seen for a while. It's so nice to laugh. I feel great. This was such a stress reliever. So, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your head, get out of your own way. That's what improv does. It gives you permission to do that in a safe space.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. It's one thing to be in the audience, but the skills you learn in those workshops can really be used anywhere. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, for sure. That's the great thing about taking the workshops is whether or not you want to perform, whether or not you just want to get used to public speaking, whether or not you want to be comfortable around more people. It's all those things can help you.
So we've talked about how important making sure the environment is supportive, but I want to ask you, how do you use comedy sports, workshops, the rec leagues, and all of those things at your disposal to actually create those safe spaces? What does that look like as someone who leads these environments?
Yeah, a lot of that is making sure that you check in, that you make sure that people feel comfortable enough sharing.
Right.
What they're comfortable with, what their limitations are. Make sure you take those steps so everyone is comfortable and sharing. And you set it up that way from day one, moment one, that this is a safe space.
Yeah.
Making sure there's friendly faces there and letting people know, we are going to be supporting each other, we are going to be yes-anding, we're going to be listening. Because so often in life, we don't take time to actually listen. How many times are you in a conversation where someone's waiting for their time to talk versus actually active listening?
Right. I think it's interesting that a very little bit of attention in some of these areas can go a very long way to making people feel ready to take on a new persona, a new opportunity to tell a story. I don't know if you are aware of this, but in my comedy career, you were the first person I stepped out on stage with when I moved to Milwaukee. And I was really nervous. I remember wanting to chat with you and tell you my idea, which is sort of an improv no-no, just to make sure that you would go along with my vision. So I told you, we're going to be on a roller coaster. And we just stepped out, and you had this cool confidence that told me that I would be safe and that we would be fine. And it was just a small moment, but that's really left a big impact on me. So I want to say thank you for that effort.
You're very welcome. And you are one of the most talented improvisers in Milwaukee. If people get a chance to see Hannah, do it.
Well, shucks. Well, so you've been with Comedy Sports for a long time, done sort of all of these various applications, but thinking back to the beginning of your journey, could you offer some advice to someone who's just starting out?
Yeah, I would say if you're just starting out and you're looking for a way to be creative, to be funny, take an improv workshop. When I was 18, I signed up for Comedy Sports workshops, wasn't sure what to expect, just again, wanting to be funny. Allow yourself, give yourself to the process.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people want to go in and think well, no, I know how to do this, or I want to, I know how to be funny or whatever. It's just leave all that, just let it go, support, follow what your scene partners are doing, listen to those instructors. Because I think sometimes fear will make us stop and just be no, I'm going to do the thing that I'm the most comfortable with.
I think it's reassuring to know that there is, or to tell people who've never done this before, that there is kind of a framework, right? It's not like learning to pole vault where you kind of just have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that people can, be supported in that way.
Yeah.
Well,
when you go through improv, it's learn the rules to break the rules. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great thesis. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have. I could do this all day, but I have been your host, Hannah Tahtinen, and I want to thank you again, Mike, for joining me in the studio.
My pleasure.
Before we head on out of here, our three guests also wanted to share their final thoughts on what comedy means to them. So here's what they had to say.
For me, comedy is laughter, comedy is strength.
Comedy is togetherness.
Comedy is hope.
It's everything that I love about the world in a single place that brings joy and laughter to people.
I think there's very few things that bring people together like a good laugh that everyone can share together.
We know that people have our backs. People feel helpless and hopeless when they think people aren't there to support them. Improv is all about support.
When you kind of have that community of comedy going on and you can see the people that are performing it are having fun together and the people out in the audience are all having fun together, I think that kind of creates a togetherness in a space that is completely unique to any other experience.
It's amazing.
Comedy is
life.
These scars I hold underneath my skin may seem so cold, so deep within.